Welcome to Getting Started with Artifact Registry. Today, I'll show you how to deploy a container stored in an Artifact Registry repository to Google Kubernetes Engine. If you're new to Artifact Registry, I recommend you check out the last episode of Getting Started or the documentation before proceeding. With that in mind, let's walk through deploying to GKE. Now, there's a good chance that if you're watching this video, you already know about Google Kubernetes Engine, but to get everyone up to speed, let's have a quick overview. GKE is an enterprise-grade platform for containerized applications, including stateful and stateless, AI and ML, Linux and Windows, complex and simple web apps, API, and backend services. You can use GKE to leverage industry-first features like four-way auto-scaling and no-stress management. You can also optimize GPU and TPU provisioning, use integrated developer tools, and get multi-cluster support from SREs. So, why use Artifact Registry then with GKE? Using Artifact Registry with GKE gives you the ability to manage all of your artifacts in one place. So for example, you can build Maven packages, push them to Artifact Registry, containerize them with Cloud Build and Jib, and then deploy them to GKE, all while using consistent IAM across the build process, artifact management, and GKE. Artifact Registry also enables you to run in fully regionalized stacks. So, with Artifact Registry, an Australian or South American customer can run GKE clusters and manage container images in the same region and pay no egress costs while they pull images. Pretty sweet, huh? So, without further ado, let's deploy to GKE. First, start with new or existing code. Here's a simple Go Hello World app that I'm going to use in my container. You can also take a look at my Docker file here for kicks, though it's pretty much boilerplate. See below for a link to the documentation where you can see this file in detail. I'm using Cloud Build to build this project, but keep in mind that you don't have to. Using Cloud Build allows you to automatically push the image to Artifact Registry, which I like because it streamlines the deploy process. These next couple steps are for building with Cloud Build. If you don't already know your Cloud Project ID, you can get it by running this command. Now, create a file called cloudbuild.yaml. Here's the contents of that file, but don't worry about rushing to pause the video so you can copy this down. You can find this code in the documentation, which, of course, is linked below. These variables, repository and image, are used for the repository name and the name of the image in the repository, so that they can be replaced at build time using custom Cloud Build substitutions. This is very useful if you want to use the same build config file to push images to repositories for different environments, such as testing, staging, or production. For example, this command would substitute drain pipe for the repository name and my image for the image name. I run this command to submit my container to build using Cloud Build. It is then stored using Artifact Registry in the drain pipe repository. Now that you have a project built and ready to go, you may need to configure access to your container. Check the docs to see the minimum required GKE versions to create clusters that have default permissions to pull containers from Docker repositories in the same project. If you are not using one of these GKE versions, you will need to configure access to pull containers using Kubernetes image pull secrets. If you need to access containers from repositories in another project, then you need to grant read permission on that repository to the identity being used to pull the image. Once that access is configured, you can run an Artifact Registry image on a GKE cluster using this command, where name is the name you've given the object, location is the regional or multi-regional location of your repository, project ID is, of course, your Google Cloud Project ID, repository is the name of the repository where the image is stored, image is the name of the image in the repository, and tag is the tag for the image version that you want to pull. So, for my drain pipe project, I'd use this command. And now, my image that's stored in an Artifact Registry repository is deployed to GKE. Want to see more on deploying to Google Kubernetes Engine with Artifact Registry? Check out the Artifact Registry Quick Start for Docker and the Artifact Registry Guide on integrating with Google Kubernetes Engine. Do you have any questions about Artifact Registry? Feel free to comment below or tweet at me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next Getting Started with Artifact Registry.